Thank you for joining us again for our bus ministry training series here at White Oak Baptist Church. Again, we appreciate your willingness to serve the Lord through serving these children and teenagers by going out there and picking them up on our buses and bringing them back safely to White Oak Baptist Church. Today's training video will be on Section 3, Transporting Cargo Safely. This is a required section to know while you train for your Commercial Learner's Permit, your CLP. Let me stop and say, well, why do we need to learn this? We will be driving school buses. We won't be driving cargo. We're not storing cargo. The reason we have to learn this is more for the facts of it is required by the state of Connecticut to know these questions when you take your test. Several of these questions and several of these subjects will come up when you take your permit test here in a few weeks, hopefully. This video is meant to be a helpful tool as you go back and study. It will not have all the answers, but I'm going to do my best to try to help you out. Always go back to the Commercial Driver's License Manual put out by the state of Connecticut. So let's begin. As we begin, we need to inspect our cargo. As you can see here in this shot, if you don't inspect your cargo, disasters can happen. How often should you check your cargo? Well, obviously, before you leave. After you start, then you do need to stop again after 50 miles. This question is almost guaranteed to be on your test. We need to recheck every 3 hours or every 150 miles. And then, of course, after every driving break, you run to the bathroom, you check your cargo. Again, this may not be as big a matter for the bus ministry, but this is information you will need to know on your test. This question, especially how often do you stop after you started to check, that is almost a guarantee will be on the test. So when do we do it? Before we leave, after starting, we stop after 50 miles. And every 3 hours or every 150 miles we stop again after every break. We need to make sure we weigh and balance the load properly. As you see from this, the trailer is tipping because it was not weighed correctly, or not balanced correctly. A couple key terms to know, which again, these things will be on your test, will be to know terms like, what is the GVWR? What's the gross vehicle weight rating? What does that mean? It is the value specified by the manufacturer as a loaded weight of a single vehicle. You have to know what a GCWR is. Well, that is the gross combination weight rating. It is basically the gross vehicle weight plus the unit being towed, or any combination that produces the highest value. If you were driving and got pulled over, this is what the officer would be checking for. What is the GVWR? Oh, you said that one already. You also know the term, the axle weight. That is the weight transmitted to the ground by one axle or by one set of axles. Here's an example of one I found online. The steering axle here can do 12,000 pounds. The drive axle can handle 13,000 pounds, and then those tandem axles in the back, tandem going together, can carry 34,000 pounds. The tire load is the maximum safe weight a tire can carry at a specified pressure. There is a tire load index, which you can find online, and it's on every tire. Even if you went out to your standard daily driver, that code is on there, so you can find out how much your vehicle's tires can specifically load. Your vehicle might be able to do one weight, but if the tires aren't correct, it can make it so you can't tow as much just because of the bad tires. The most famous example of this is several years ago with the Ford Explorers, when they had the terrible instance where they would turn over all the time, where people start calling them Ford Exploders. That was because the load index was listed incorrectly on those tires. Had nothing to do with the vehicle. In fact, their fix for the vehicle was to sub it out for a better tire. That was it. So this is important, is to make sure, even on our bus, to make sure the tire load can carry the right amount of weight. You need to know your suspension system. The suspension system is the manufacturer's weight. Make sure that the suspension system collides with the manufacturer's weight rating capacity. You'll see a picture there of leaf springs that are broken, which will be part of your walk-around inspection. Next, the coupling device capacity. Again, even though we're not driving a truck, we need to know that the coupling devices are rated for the maximum weight that they can pull. The legal weight limits. This is section 3.2.2, the legal weight limits. It is very important that you do not overload past the GVWR, the GCWR, or the axle weights. This can cause steering, braking, and speed issues. You must know how much you can load. With our bus ministry, this will be one of those problems where we normally won't have to deal with, but keep in mind how much can that vehicle handle. It does change the way the vehicle steers, brakes, and speeds up. Don't be top heavy is the next section, 3.2.3. We got to make sure that the center of gravity is set correctly for the load. A high center of gravity means you are more likely to tip over. It is dangerous, especially on curves, if you have to avoid something, you have to swerve fast, well, the whole vehicle can tip over if that center of gravity is not correct. Put the heaviest parts of the cargo under the lightest parts. Here's an example of how to figure out the center of gravity. If you've ever driven a car than an SUV, you felt the difference on a bigger vehicle, especially a bus. Buses are top heavy. Keep that in mind. The bus by itself is a top heavy vehicle, and you'll have to think about it is a lot harder for us to swerve, so that should put the pressure on us to pay attention more to begin with, so we don't have to swerve. Here's a picture of a church bus that did roll. Buses, again, have an easier chance to roll. I don't know this Heritage Baptist Church. It's not Wallingford. But buses can roll easily if we have to swerve. So keep in mind, we are top heavy. We need to balance the weight properly. Poor weight balance can make vehicle handling unsafe. Too much weight on the steering axle can cause hard steering. It can damage the steering axle and tires. Underloaded front axles caused by shifting weight too far to the rear can make the steering axle's weight too light to steer safely. Too little weight on the drive axle can cause poor traction. A great example of that out here in Connecticut is our winters. The drive wheels then will start spinning easily. On flatbed trucks, there's a greater chance the load will shift to the side or fall. Here is we need to secure our cargo properly. Start off by blocking and bracing. Blocking is used in the front, back, or sides of a piece of cargo to keep it from sliding. Blocking is shaped to fit snugly against cargo. Here's a picture from the Commercial Driver's License Manual to show you right loading and wrong loading. The problem with this first shot is the weight then in the back will tip the vehicle, so it needs to be secured correctly. You say, well, let's load everything on the front of the truck. Then there's no weight on the back and it will start going. So to load it, you have to have a balanced load. Putting everything on the back will push your back end out during turns and can make you slide or lose control so easily. You'll see people oftentimes with trailers start serpentining. Usually it's because they have loaded wrong and their load is off balance. We see in the bottom an unbalanced load from having too much weight on one side. That'll make your vehicle pull to one side as you drive, and again, could even cause it to tip if it got on too hard of a turn. Cargo tie downs. On flatbed trailers or trailers without sides, cargoes must be secured to keep it from shifting or falling off. In closed vans, tie downs can also be important to prevent cargo shifting that may affect the handling of the vehicle. As you can imagine, if something was in the front and rolled to the back, that's going to, or go from the left side to the right side, that's going to make you swerve. Cargo should have one tie down for each 10 feet of cargo. Again, I can almost guarantee you that question will be on a test. It'll ask you something like, between how many feet does there need to be a tie down? So there should be one tie down for every 10 foot of cargo, as you see here, so lovely illustrated. All cargo, no matter the size, needs at least 2 tie downs. See in this picture? Well, they only tied it down with one. That's a problem, among other things. Headache boards. Front end header boards, as seen in this picture from a pickup truck, are also called headache racks. They protect your cargo from crashing through the back into you. Make sure the front end structure is in good condition. The front end structure should block the forward movement of any cargo you carry. This was on my CPL quiz. They use the term headache board, not front end header board like I was used to being from California. They use the term headache board on the official form. So keep in mind, what is a headache board? Well, it's going to protect the cargo from coming through the back and hitting you in case of an accident. Make sure it's there. It's really there for your protection. And make sure that it is tight and firm. Again, this was on my test, I know for sure, and I can almost guarantee it will be on yours. Covering our cargo. There are 2 basic reasons for covering our cargo. Number 1, to protect people from spilled cargo. Number 2, to protect the cargo from weather. We need to make sure that our cargo is covered properly, and you should look at your cargo cover in the mirrors from time to time to make sure that it's not flapping, tearing loose, or blocking someone else's or your views. Spill protection is a safety requirement in many states. If you're going to be traveling outside of Connecticut, check to see if what you're towing has any special spill protection rules and regulations. Again, here in the state of Connecticut, if you're driving for White Oak Baptist Church, it won't be an issue, but keep that in mind. Sealed and contained loads. A good example of this is you'll see trucks carrying containers that are fresh off the boats. Well, you cannot inspect the inside of a sealed load, but you should check that your load doesn't exceed your gross vehicle and axle weight limits. You must secure it down like any other cargo using a minimum of 2 straps and a strap every 10 feet. Cargo needing special attention. There are certain kinds of loads that as you're carrying will shift differently on you. For example, dry bulk tanks such as carrying sand require special care because they have a high center of gravity and the load can shift. Be extremely cautious, slow and careful around going around curves and making sharp turns. Hanging meats such as suspended beef, pork, or lamb in a refrigerated truck can be very unstable. As you can imagine, the high center of gravity, and besides just your one turn, it's obviously going to swing back and forth as you make the turns. Particular caution is needed on sharp curves and on and off ramps. Just take it slow. Livestock can move around on you in a trailer, causing unsafe handling. If you have less than a full load, use false headboards to keep livestock bunched together. And even when bunched, special care is necessary because livestock can lean during curves. This shifts the center of gravity and makes rollovers more likely. So that is section 3. I hope this has been a help to you. Let's end. Oh, I forgot oversized loads. Hey, I'm doing this all in one take. Hopefully it turns out good for you guys. Over length, over width, or overweight loads require special permits. That is a question that will be on the test. Driving is usually limited to certain times. You have to get certain special permits here in Connecticut. You have to have a sign that says wide load with signs, flashing lights, flags. Sometimes you may even need a police escort or a pilot vehicle bearing warning signs or flashing their lights. Such loads require. See, I told you it would. So, as we end, take some time to review these questions. Again, several of these will be on the test when you go take your CPL. So let's stop and ask. Answer this question. What 4 things related to cargo are drivers responsible for? Do you know? What 4 things is the driver responsible for? If you don't know the answer, go back, look in the book, try to figure it out. Number 2, how often should you stop on the road to check your cargo? I could almost guarantee you that that question will be on your test, or a form of it. How often must you stop while on the road to check your cargo? How is gross combination weight rating different from the gross combination weight? What's the difference between the GVW and the GCWR? Name 2 situations where illegal maximum weights may not be safe. These questions actually come from the back of the CDL manual. As you can see here, I'm going to point this out that in here it did not say specifically. So you have to think, well, what 2 situations where the legal maximum weight not be the safest thing? Number 5, what can happen if you don't have enough weight on the front axle? What can happen if you don't have enough weight on that front axle? Number 6, what is the minimum number of tie-downs for any flatbed load? If you're carrying a load, what is the minimum number of tie-downs for any flatbed load? I had a picture, hopefully that helped you remind you of the answer. Number 7, what is the minimum number of tie-downs for a 20-foot load? Stop and think about the answer. What is the minimum number of tie-downs for a 20-foot load? Number 8, name the 2 basic reasons for covering your cargo on an open bed vehicle. Name 2 basic reasons for covering the cargo on an open bed. Number 9 then, what must you check before transporting a sealed load? We said there's something you can't check. What must you check before transporting a sealed load? As we end today, I want to thank you again for your interest in the bus ministry here at White Oak Baptist Church. We really do appreciate you getting your license to help bring those in who couldn't normally have a ride to church. If you have a question about anything you saw today, please contact Pastor Levine, or if we want to make this a lot like YouTube, comment below. I hope this is a help. Let me know if this is a benefit to you, and we'll see you in the next section.